All right, what is up, everyone? It's your host, SB Philos4. Welcome back to the RePHIL studio. Let's refill to 99 as we always do for this next upcoming set. Get those cans ready. We have our two special guests for this episode of the studio today. So joining me in the studio, we have Pasta and Cinna. And notably, I'll just give a brief intro to both. Pasta got first place in the most recent Hello Happy World Smile Connection event. And Cinna also having top 3 in that same event, as well as in Prismatic Duo as well. So also a top 3. So both of you, welcome to the studio. Glad to have both of you here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us.
It should be pretty interesting.
Is there anything else maybe I missed in that intro? I have a pretty bad history of missing a bunch of information lately on some of the intro, but is there anything else you'd like to add?
I mean, just like, I guess, a few T10s.
Yeah.
I have T10 softball and then also T10 Smiling Summer Break. That was an interesting event.
Well, we'll certainly get to learn a little bit more about your individual experiences in Theory very soon as well, Pasta. So definitely look forward to hearing from that. Cinna, I know you have 2 T3s. Is there any other whale titles that I missed?
Not anything super duper whale. I did get a T10 back in Valupasu, but I feel like I'm kind of a newer tier. I don't have too many big things.
Okay, well, that's good. That's good. So both of you, again, thank you so much for taking time to join us. And as we always do, I always want to ask our guests because, of course, you won't have a T1 or a T3 without even knowing what Bang Dream is. So maybe we'll start with Pasta. How did you first get into Bang Dream Girls Man Party?
Oh boy. Well, it's a pretty interesting story. All the way back in 2019, I had taken a trip to Japan, and so I had entered a convenience store, and I saw Lisa Lawson's edition on the shelf, and I was like, "Wow, this seems like a good game." And then I downloaded it, and the rest is history.
So an actual trip to Japan got you into the game. That is not something I heard of in all of our 30 episodes so far.
Yeah, like it was these like limited edition folders of the bassists. I mentioned Lisa, that was the one that I got. And then 2 days later, I ended up actually going back and getting all of them. And then that was just kind of like foreshadowing, really, for the further whaling.
Wow.
That's this dark history with whaling.
Wow, already just right when you began, you already had the dark history of whaling, huh? and Cinna, what about you? How did you get into Bang Dream?
I mostly got into Bang Dream through Twitter. I feel like with a lot of fandoms, that's how I kind of do it. I see people talking about it on social media, and then I end up getting into it. And it was probably really my friends from a now defunct Love Live server, Our Wonderful Story. It was just like a medium size, but there's a lot of people there who are fans of Bang Dream and Sayo Oshi's in particular.
Oh, for sure. Wow, that's definitely very interesting. And you two mentioned characters, right? For instance, Pasta, you mentioned Lisa. Cinna, you mentioned Sayo. So maybe again we'll start with Pasta. Like, what was your favorite character or band? Like, what was the first like impression of Bang Dream and like maybe your favorite character or band, and then did that change throughout the years?
Yeah, so like, Lisa first caught my eye as like a character that I was interested in going into the game. And my first gacha was the initial 3-star Lisa, and so that kind of solidified that further. But so continuing on, I was a Roselia fan. I still am. I mean, I feel like I'm a fan of all of the bands, but over time, through the event stories, I grew to love Hello Happy World, and that's kind of where I am now.
Hence why your very shiny, prestigious title that we'll talk about very shortly after. But that's a very interesting progression, going from like the rock, like the not I guess when rock, like the more like I guess gothic kind of Roselia vibe to the more boisterous, happy Hello Happy World. So very interesting, I guess, transition there. And Cinna, what about you? Did the favorite band character, did that change at all throughout your journey here in this game?
I think it might have changed a little bit. I don't remember the exact details at the very beginning, but I did fall for Hina pretty quickly. I just found a tier list on my Twitter from 2020 where I ranked my favorites as Hina and Kasumi. I'm a fan of Genki girls.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember liking Poppy Pa a lot, and now HHW has replaced them as first in my heart. But of course, I still love all the bands.
Yeah, for sure. And I think speaking of Hina, right? Being one of your favorites, I think you cosplayed her as well. Some time ago, right?
Yeah, I cosplayed her at Northwest Idol Fest. I haven't been able to take her anywhere else quite yet, but I'm hoping to. It's a lot of fun to wear that outfit. Makes you feel all sparkly and shiny.
For sure. I, if it wasn't for this current situation, I would have definitely went to Northwest Idol Fest because I'm relatively close by. I mean, I am a country away from Seattle, but it's like a 2-hour drive, not too bad. So maybe this year I'll try and my bets on trying to go over there. So and hopefully maybe we'll see a lot of Bang Dream fans over there. So it's an Idol con, so might as well go. So. But yeah, that's great to hear for both of you. Now, of course, getting into Bang Dream is a little bit different from getting into tiering because that's like a whole different kind of aspect of the game, right? It's easy to just appreciate the bands or the characters, but tiering is very different. So maybe this time we'll start with Cinna. How did you first hear about tiering and how did you first get into it?
Yeah, I think it was probably also through Twitter. I spend a lot of time on Twitter. I remember back when I was, before I was super into the fandom, I saw on Twitter people with their thank you letters. And I think Feathers was somebody who I followed for her writing way back in the day. And I saw some of her early thank you letters. And I just love like the positive energy and the sense of community and how much passionate people were about everything they did with tiering, because it's a ton of time and effort, and I don't know, I really think that passion is incredible, and I want to be part of that. So I think it was probably 2-ish years ago that I decided I wanted to tier for real, and I remember posting on Twitter about trying to T100 in pub up and down the hallway, and Sammy Umicorn scooped me out of the metaphorical Twitter gutter and excuse me, introduced me to tiering servers.
Wow, that's something. And then when you got into tiering servers, how was that? Like, what was that first impression or experience of that?
Oh my gosh, I was so nervous. I was like, these people, they can play for 2 days straight. What am I doing among them? I can't play more than 2 sets at a time. There's so many words and so much like high level play. But everybody was so welcoming. I think that's really what I love most about the tiering community is that people were just happy to help me learn. They were understanding. Of course, you'll have fumbles at the start. Yeah, that's
for sure. That's great. And again, and eventually led to your experience of getting your first T10, which I think we'll talk about just a bit. I'm just going to transition over to Pasta. What about you? How did you first get into tiering, and how did that sort of transpired?
So for me, tiering kind of went hand in hand with my growing love for Hello Happy World. I had read the what was it, the Treasure Island Hello Happy event with the Pier Canon, and I was like, I think it would be cool for my little profile to have a cool number on it. And so I went over to PubCord and I would spam the Lisa bot and checking the T1K cutoff and seeing if I could make it into top 1,000, because that was like insane to me. And I did make it in, and I was really proud of that. But then I was like, what if I went for a top 100? And at around this time, it was when like A2s came out. And so everyone was talking about like meta and efficiency, and I was curious about that. And so like from what I gathered from my lurking, I was like, everyone's supposed to play A2s, and I was like, okay, I need to be able to full combo A2s before I can try to tier. And then eventually I was able to full combo A2s, and I was like, yes. And I popped off in pubcord, and then I was like, it's time for me to tier for Hello Happy World Bandori 2. And then I was asking around, I was like, how do I tier? Because all I had known was A2s. And I got it like Feathers had happened to be in the pubcord chat at the time. And so I ended up in that server. And that was a lot of fun. I consider that really my first tiering experience in a server. And I didn't know what I was doing. And everyone was just like, oh, put a score as your center, and then join the room and read the efficiency guidelines and whatnot. And I ended up getting 14th place because I didn't know how much I should have played and like when to stop. And but it was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Well, that's really something, because again, that also kind of, I guess that leads to a discussion, because a lot of newer players that I've noticed, and again, we're getting a lot of newer players recently. If maybe you two have noticed, we have a lot of newer tiers coming in recently, and it's pretty interesting that where a lot of people they might get a little bit nervous about like not knowing how to tier or not wanting to like burn down the efficiency. And I think one of the barriers is the fact that maybe they can't play Unite from A to Z on the expert or special difficulty. But it's an interesting barrier that people sometimes face. So I don't know if you two have any thoughts about that, because I personally think that as long as you have like the mindset, and if you want to, especially for like those who may be going for lower tiers, if you have like a bunch of people and they go aiming for lower tiers, if y'all just like work together, play relatively efficiently, not everyone has to play on like expert or special difficulty. Even if you just play hard, and you just be efficient with your time, then I think everyone's a happy customer, I think.
Yeah, I think I think it is a lot. I don't want to say easier, but like a lot more accessible than a lot of people think. Just like bouncing back to talking about Hello Happy Bandori 2, we didn't even end up playing A2s. We played like Legendary in Fwafwa time, and I was like, what?
Soft meta? Like, what is this?
Yeah, I was like, what do you mean? I just have to play hard on Legendary. I didn't even need to full combo EX2s.
Yeah, that's definitely, it's definitely a learning experience for sure. And I'm sure that, when both of you first joined tiering servers, there was a bit of a learning curve, but I imagine there were a lot of people just making sure that, you're getting the guidance, you make sure that you kind of have understanding of how things work. And then you felt much better going out of an event. Yeah, good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Let's briefly talk about your individual T10 experiences, because I know you two have a bit of T10 experience in your, I guess, your belt and your repertoire. So Cinna, like you were already kind of going into a little bit about your T10, but how was that experience, I guess, compared to maybe what you did before? Like, maybe in the past you were just going for like top 2,500 or top 1,000, but like this was like a big jump, right, to your first T10. So how was that experience overall to you? And what were some notable highlights of that?
Yeah, I definitely have a lot of fond memories of Valupasu. So I had done a T100 and bopping down the hallway right before that. Right before that. But coming into the event, I was originally aiming for a T100. And I remember reaching out to Emmy a little bit before, and she was like, oh, the roster's full, I'm sorry. And I was like, no, totally understandable. But eventually, a portion of the way through the event, I think actually only a day into the event, she was so kind as to let me join. Yeah, so I think it was a big change, and that like at that level for me, playing 16 hours straight, and when I take a step back, doing anything for 16 hours is a lot. But that was like, wow, an insurmountable mountain for me. I remember the first day I was like, oh, I'm gonna stay up until 4 a.m. playing. I think once I got into the swing of things, it was like you kind of get used to it, and and the playtime doesn't seem nearly quite as bad as before. It wasn't a terribly competitive event. I think there was one person who chased to like 5. It was a VS Live. And again, at the time, like I was sweating, and now looking back, I was like, oh, I was totally fine. Younger Cinna, she didn't know. She was like, not an issue. Totally lost my train of thought.
No worries.
It was a lot of fun. It was hung out a lot with people in voice chat. Of course, met Emmy and Pastry, who I've been tearing with for a long time after that.
And yeah, you mentioned Emmy and Pastry, of course, who are her previous guests of this podcast, and it also kind of led to the fact that eventually, I don't remember. I guess it would have been like more than half a year later where you would eventually tier with them as well in Prismatic Duo and get your first T3 title. Yeah. So. With that T3, were you like nervous at all about like the preparation of what you had to do and the fact that, it's maybe 16 hours is not even enough. You may have to do even more.
Yeah, I think it was kind of funny. I feel like my story there was a similar. Before the event, I was, a T10 and Emmy server, or really I was originally like, it took me a while to get on the roster. I took kind of a convoluted path. Maybe I won't get into it. Before I got into, I was originally going to be a T10, and a portion of the way through the event, I prepped pretty hard for that event because originally there was like, 3 or 4 or 5 servers. And at a certain point, once I got on a roster, I left all the other servers just so, I wouldn't hear anything I wasn't supposed to. So I was like super nervous. I was ready to do the full 48-hour opener, no sleep. And it did end up being relatively intense because even though I was only going for a T10 at first, I had work that week, as did Pastry and Emmy. So I knew that I needed to front load pretty heavily. But wow, my mind is blank. I'm so sorry.
No worries.
Yeah. But once the event got going, I think it was kind of similar to how in Valopasta, once I got in the swing of things, and I was like, even though the hours were long and I was only sleeping a few hours a night, and by the end my body was a wreck, it was like, I don't know, I think once you get into something, it's surprisingly easy to just keep going and keep pushing. I consistently surprise myself, and I think everybody would, with how far you can go.
Definitely. I'm sure Pasta would totally agree with that.
Yeah, honestly, it can be a little surprising what people can pull off.
Yeah, for sure. It's crazy, especially like, it's amazing and very inspiring because, I've never done like something like that personally in tiering, but just seeing how all people have so much devotion for their particular favorite characters. And in your case, for both of those events, they were Hina banners, they were Hina banners. So I imagine again that devotion for Hina really kind of pushes you to drive and work hard. And then Pasta will definitely talk about your devotion for Hell Happy very shortly as well. And of course Niconiconnect, that's like a big thing for sure. Before we move on, Cinna, just one more thing I just want to ask, because I got a little bit of a glimpse of this from a previous podcast, but were there any maybe hallucinations or anything from your T3?
Don't be like that. Like that. Oh my God. So yeah, I think at maybe the 30-hour mark into into Prismatic Duo, Emmy and I were both hallucinating pretty bad. She was way worse than me. I think like Pastry, my hallucinations were constrained to the screen, if that makes sense. So I didn't see anything like around me. It was only on the screen. But I remember there was this one Tomoe card that I was like so convinced was Hu Tao Genshin.
Oh my God.
Now looking at it, I can barely I have no idea how I thought that.
Your Genshin dailies were waiting for you. Like you forgot your Genshin daily, Cinna.
I don't play Genshin.
You don't even play Genshin.
Oh my God, that's even worse. That's even worse.
Yeah, I was on so little sleep. I don't have the best memory of those. But I remember at some point, like the notes turned into hippo snouts. I remember I was like playing Tetris with the notes, and I was like super frustrated that A2s wasn't lining up in like a way that would make complete rows. Oh man. Oh, then there was propellers on the notes at some point. Yeah, it was nuts.
Oh wow. Wow. Okay. That's
Okay. In my defense, it was only at the start and end when my sleep was low. In the middle, when I got like 3 hours, I was totally fine.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. But I imagine, again, for newer tiers, when they hear that, they'll be a little bit scared. But
I promise, guys, you don't have to do that. Not even for a normal podium.
yeah. It's just Prismatic Duo was pretty different. But again, Cinna, big shout outs and big congrats on your achievements, because they are very notable, especially Prismatic Duo. I would say especially that T3, when at the start it was like, oh man, it could have been really competitive and ugly, but pulled through. So big shout outs to you there.
Yeah. Thank you. I couldn't have done it without everybody's help.
and Pasta, let's move on to you, because I imagine after you got 14th place in Bandori 2, what is it called? I Need You. Oh, I can't get back to the name. It's like, I really want to say Kimiga Nakcha, but then it's just like, oh, I guess it's called I Need You. But anyway, that's
called Kimiga.
that's a whole different topic. But Pasta, I imagine once you got 14th in that event, you were probably thinking, I'm not satisfied. I want a little bit more than that, because eventually you end up getting 2 T10s after that. So what sort of whale or gorilla transpired you to continue and you say, I'm going to get these 2 additional T10 titles?
Well, I mean, it started really when Bandori had that update where they had 2 titles on your profile.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, I was like, I want to get a second T100.
Mm-hmm.
And so I ended up getting several T100s on various events, like the Hella Happy Yukatas, which is another pure canon, like the Hagu Rimi event. That was fun. A bunch of few other events. But ever since Bandori 2, I actually didn't want a top 10. I wanted to skip that and go straight to podium, straight to T1.
Look at you.
And I wanted to do it as a free-to-play player, which didn't end up happening because my friends at the time, they had convinced me, peer pressure, to whale in order to get cards that I needed. And, in hindsight, I definitely do need the cards in order to tier. But with those friends, I ended up doing softball. We weren't part of like Blair and R2 server.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of had our own thing going on. And then, so I got T10 there.
Nice.
And then throughout all of this, ever since Bandori 2 and through all these T100s, still in the back of my mind, my goal was always to have T1, but specifically on Bandori 3, because of the positive experience I had with Bandori 2 and my T14 and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I ended up going for Hella Happy Summer eventually, another pure canon, right?
Mm-hmm.
The reason why I ended up doing that event was because I wanted to kind of like make sure that I was ready to actually do T1, because I had realized at that point that my longing for wanting to accomplish something like that since Bandori 2 was not possible for me at that time, because I guess I didn't really understand like quote unquote what I would need to be able to do. And then Hell Happy Summer happened, and that was a lot of fun. I was intending on doing it like pubs, like just in pubcord. And I ended up doing, I think, the first 24 hours in pubcord or something like that. Then I slept for 3 hours, and then I woke up, and then I kind of got drafted, I suppose. And I ended up playing with Snips and everybody else for the rest of the event.
Wow. That's what a journey and what a story there. Like going from, trying to, skip a few steps. It didn't happen, but it's still really inspiring just to see how motivated you were and how much you knew that, there were some things you have to figure out and about, how much you could push your limits and how well you could do, particular tasks and tiering and juggling time. So again, it's really great to hear that you were able to get that experience. And Pastor, I don't know if you signed yourself up for this or you intended to sign yourself up for this, but I'm sure that Summer Hello Happy more than prepared you for what was to come, because that event, I already had a few people join and talk about that event, but that event was was something.
I like to call it the anomaly in events, because a lot of events get close in hours and numbers, but none of them actually pass it. And with the accelerated schedule these days, there literally will never be another Hello Happy Summer.
And yeah, just the fact there were so many people going for it, so it was.
Yeah, like a lot of the chasers were playing with me in PubCord. There was Useless Garbage, and then there was like Derniek, I think that's how you pronounce that, and a few other people that would like show up in the PubCord rooms. And I ended up abandoning them. And I still feel a little bit bad about that.
Oh no. But you did get, as you mentioned, you got drafted by none other than legendary Snips. So
who is tearing right now as we speak.
As we speak. Maybe even Cinna, you're playing right now, filling for Snips right now, maybe.
Playing well on the podcast, but I will be after. I would have been before if I weren't napping.
That's fair. As context, everyone, the current event is, for those listening, at the time of this recording, the event is Buddy X Buddy. I think a lot of our viewers right now are actually tiering for the event right now, myself included. I'll probably be going to tier after this, but for now it is, of course, it's time in this set with the studio for the guests. Which again, Pastor, it was great to hear that your T10 experiences, that worked well and really kind of gave you a little bit of knowledge and insight of what you needed to do to improve. And is there any particular notable experiences there, like from those titles? In particular, we already talked about like the pubbing and such, but anything else?
I had intended to get a nice can return from Hello Happy Summer in order to prepare for Niconiconnect. But we ended up, or at least me personally, I ended up using all of my stars and also all of my cans and all of my ads, trying to squeeze out a few extra event points. And I walked away from that event completely broke. And then I was still counting down the days for Niconiconnect. And I realized that this was going to suck trying to rebuild up my budget, but it worked out in the end, I think.
That's fair. Again, T Podium and T10 free to play. I think it's possible, but it really requires a lot of dedication and time in advance to prep. It's definitely something. So, it's great to hear again that eventually led to this event. Smile Connection, Bandori 3. Still also sounds weird. Niconiconnect, please. it just sounds,
on the title, it says Niconiconnect, so we're legally allowed to call it Niconiconnect.
We're legally allowed. Bandori has legally allowed us to say that. Indeed. It's called Niconiconnect. So, yeah.
Kimi guys illegal.
Hey guys, it's Phil here. Hope you're enjoying the episode so far. The RePHIL Studio is now available on all of your favorite podcast platforms. Check us out on YouTube, but of course as well on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. Be sure to subscribe so you're up to date with the latest episodes whenever they're released. And be sure to give ratings and comments and spread the word. All that engagement is greatly appreciated to spread the word about the RePHIL Studio podcast. Of course, special thanks to all my Filler Nation members who've been constantly supporting me and my content throughout this journey with the RePHIL Studio. So if you would like to support the RePHIL Studio and my content and greatly appreciate it, consider joining by subscribing to my Twitch below or by joining my Patreon. Links in the description below, and any support is greatly appreciated. We have a new sister channel. You can check it out in the card above, where there's going to be exclusive content, including my Twitch VODs, as well as a sister project for the RePHIL Studio that will be happening in the future. So definitely check it out and be sure to give a subscribe. And of course, feel free to join our Anga Academy Discord server, where we have a fun, loving community, interact with our members there, be able to contribute to the studio question that's featured in the podcast every week, and get to know a little bit more about our special guests featured in the podcast. So we hope to see you there. Well, again, both of you, thank you again for sharing your individual experiences about tiering. So now let's talk about what brings this all together, which is, of course, as we've been saying for all this time, is Niconiconnect Bandori 3 for Hello Happy World. Pasta, you already sort of mentioned your intentions as to why you wanted to go for a T1, right? To push yourself, skip some steps maybe even, and then just kind of show your thanks for all the devotion and support you got from your Bandori 2 part. Is there anything else like that also motivated you on that?
I mean, it was kind of like a full circle moment, I suppose. I was able to play with a lot of the people from then and kind of like reminisce and also make new memories alongside the same veins as my first experience. And so even just on the tiering side, the event was really special to me and to a lot of other people.
For sure.
But on the Hello Happy side, the event story is really, I don't know how to put it into words, but it's just kind of like a turning point, really, of Hello Happy and for all of their fans of like a then and now and moving on towards the future. I think it's really great. Definitely, for sure. Bandori 3 is very, very, very well,
well encompasses the character development of these bands that we've been following for. According to JP, it's not been 5 years. It's for us is close to 4 years for the worldwide server, but still a lot of development through that. And Cinna, what about you? Because a lot of your experiences in tiering so far have been only with Hina. So why Hello Happy? Why Hello Happy, and why particularly Bandori 3?
Yeah, so shortly after Hina stole my heart, Kaoru did too. She is my second favorite, as you can see from my lovely profile picture. So I wanted to do something for Kaoru, and Hello Happy is my favorite band, and I wanted to do something for them. It felt kind of weird to only have Hina titles and no Hello Happy ones at all. I had a T100, but so I think also it was really I'll embarrass myself saying this publicly, but Feathers has been such a huge inspiration for me in terms of tiering and other stuff, cosplay, fanfic. And it was, for me, a big part that was exciting was getting to play with her, somebody who had inspired me to get into tiering in the first place, and being able to originally T10 and then later T3, as is my pattern, with her. Yeah, I felt like, as Pasta mentioned, I think for a lot of people there, it was a bit of a full circle moment where they had tiered together in BS2 and BS1. And I felt like a little bit on the outside, but they were super welcoming of me, and I met a lot of nice people there.
Yeah, it's honestly really amazing to see how there's within the tiering community, there's always like these very like individual, like a little bit of like the subgroups of like some very particular fans. Like there's like a particular group of people that we know are very huge Hello Happy fans. All have very, very, very great personalities. And then there's also like the Rosalia fans, which, they for quite some time in the past, they had a big reputation of being the biggest gorillas and whales in their tiering, in their true devotion. But not gonna lie, I think Hello Happy has a bit of the running for money lately. So, and of course, Pasta Palace fans, they're all like Afterglow fans. They exist, by the way, and Poppin' Party fans.
Harsh.
They exist. They're great. I love the Afterglow fans, by the way. Shout outs to Afterglow fans.
Shout out to Afterglow.
Yeah, actually,
one of us was pretty fun.
Yeah. Oh man, Bandori 3 so far has brought some really amazing storylines. So far with hearing and such. Now, of course, Pasta, when you're building the roster, and I imagine when you're building your roster, you have Cinna, you're messaging you about trying to join the roster. So for you, like, how important it was to build a roster that was strong to support you in your journey, and also just to make sure that everyone is on point with when you're building that roster.
Well, I mean, to start, it wasn't my roster. It was Feather's roster.
Well, shout outs to Feathers, because, by the way, because for both of you, Feathers has been an inspiration, which is really a really key point. And Feathers, of course, has joined us in one of our early episodes. Maybe it's time for her to join back, maybe as a return guest soon. We'll see. But anyway, continue.
Yeah, I guess kind of as Cinna alluded to, all of us were kind of really there for Feathers.
Mm-hmm.
We had Cinna, of course, and also Snips and Rat, who a lot of people, I guess, probably don't really know. He's kind of on the low key side of the Hello Happy things,
mm-hmm.
but he's like the real MVP of every event that he does. Mm-hmm. He's gotten T5 Bandori 2, T5 Bandori 3. And so, yeah, I guess in terms of building the roster, it wasn't really us kind of seeking people out. It was more just, I guess, a return to form, really. All of us coming together to, I guess, show our devotion.
For sure. Yeah, and it's definitely cool to see all the roster coming in and being able to support each other in that aspect. And I think one thing, and either of you could comment on this, this journey towards getting Bandori 3, this particular title, must have it didn't come with very smoothly. There was a lot of obstacles in the way. The first obstacle was, of course, the game itself with the scheduling and such. It's kind of funny because now the scheduling is sort of like all like fixed, but like it's not too long ago where we had conversations and genuine conversations of, is the game actually going to be okay? Yeah. So I don't know if you two any thoughts or any like stressor points about the fact that the schedule was just so messed up. I know it already affected you in Prismatic, but like in general, like affecting you, either of you in terms of planning for this this BS3 tiering.
I think it just made things pretty unpredictable. I wasn't sure if BS3 was going to fall under Christmas and I'd have to bail, or if it'd fall under, plans that I had with my friends or partner. Yeah, I think it just kind of forced me to keep my schedule open as much as I could for the event. I don't know, Pasta, do you have thoughts?
I do have quite a few thoughts. So, like, I have always wanted to do Bandori 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that, like, the second that it was announced, that I was going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And, when it was announced, obviously we didn't have any scheduling conflicts, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had planned ahead of time, making sure that the classes that I was going to take during that semester were like, I would be able to take days off of those and like, push everything aside, or like make sure that I had like as much time as possible in order to just focus on that and that only. And then, stuff happened. And ever since that the schedule started to get messed up, like every month I was in the server, I was trying to update, like mathematically trying to figure out, like, okay, so if we have like X amount of days in these events, then the event is going to land during these times. And obviously that kept changing. And so I had to keep going back, and over and over and over, I just kept making predictions that were wrong about the event times until it got to like maybe a month away, and then it was a little bit more accurate. But on
But
top of
even
that,
then, Title Idol torpedoed it.
yeah, I was about to say, like, when Title Idol happened, like at that point, I had started preparing for a 13-day event as well. I
Oh
was like,
no.
if this is going to happen, and then like, I need to make sure that I'm going to have enough time and resources to be able to do an event that long. Like I had to make sure that I was going to like be able to push all the way through. And on top of that, I have an Android device, and that was really exciting. Trying to figure out if the game would actually work for me by the time that the event rolled around, and thankfully it did. But that was a real ball of stress in the back of my mind, just like waiting for my device to blow up on me, and I wouldn't be able to play, and I would have to drop out.
Mm.
Absolutely crazy. And just that I could just imagine just the stress, because again, you've planned this for like an entire year, and then just for the game to just say, psych, we're out of here, and just not work like maybe months before. It's, oh man, the anxiety it causes, I can only imagine. I'm just glad to hear that it actually all worked out in the end, because eventually around the time where Niconiconnect actually started, the issues were, so the scheduling issues were resolved. Not necessarily the game, but the at least the scheduling was a little bit more stable. So you had a little bit of a better idea. So
Yeah.
and that's one obstacle for sure that was a part of your planning and your goal towards tiering. Now, the other thing for sure that also was an impact was the fact that it is a Bandori 3, right? There's going to be a lot of people who want to tier for this event, and there was also competition for the event. So, for either of you, what was it that kind of inspired you to try and make sure you do what you can to, I guess, do the best you could do to perform the best so that you could, be able to outcompete competition? So I guess maybe we could start with Cinna, then we'll move over to Pasta.
Yeah, so I guess, are you asking like
Yeah, so like, again, the fact that there was competition for the event, like what did that like make you nervous as well or anything? Or,
gotcha.
did you like feel that, like, what did you do to try and
Okay.
overcome such the fact that there was competition? Sorry, I didn't clarify my question.
No. Yeah, I think I had experience with a pretty competitive event in Prismatic Duo. So
Yeah.
I was a little bit less worried about the prospect. Not that it wouldn't be painful, to play the long hours, but just that like I was physically capable of doing it. And I think after an experience on Prismatic Duo where I was like super close to giving up one night, and then Gazelle, my competition happened to stop, and then I sort of got a second wind. Like, after that moment, I was like, oh, if I just hold out hope and keep playing. I know the meme is just keep playing, but really, if I just keep playing, like I can do it no matter what it is.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. It's you're trying to make sure you play as much as you can, and just try and motivate yourself to do it. And finding motivation when you're just tapping on the screen is playing the same song over and over again is not easy, I imagine. And past, I'm sure that it was the same for you, especially for you when you're trying to go for a T1.
Yeah. I mean, I guess in terms of the motivation side, like I that was never really an issue for me to find motivation, because I've been like, Bandori 3 has been in the back of my mind ever since I've started tiering, for as long as, I guess, like for as long as I could remember. It's been about like, the next band story. When is it going to be? What's the attribute going to be? I got to prepare my teams. I got to make sure that I can maximize my points in that way. In terms of like competition, I tried my best not to like pay attention to any of it and just kind of focus on what I was able to do at that moment. And I guess on the side of like preparing for the event, it was a lot of math, really, just to kind of calm myself down. Of like, okay, if I can get like this amount of points in a song, and then I'll get like this amount of points in a set, and then this amount of points in an hour, and then if I play for this amount of hours, I'll have this many points, and I'll be able to get to, you know, to wherever I needed to be.
Yeah, for sure. I think that you bring some great advice, Pasta, because a lot of the times with tiering, a lot of people I've noticed get really focused on, especially if there's other people like competing for maybe a similar title. They get really nervous as to what the other person is doing, and to be honest, it feels more like something that just causes more anxiety than anything, because at the end of the day, it's not something you could control. It's not like you could grab their internet router and disconnect it and call it a day, right? Ultimately, it's up to you, right, to do what you need to do to play. So, as long as you focus on what you can do, take care of yourself, and make sure you focus on what you need to do, everything lines up, right? It doesn't really matter too much on how other people are doing, or really at the end of the day, it's all up to you. So I do agree with that philosophy quite well. So yeah. Of course, throughout the, what was it like? Was it a 8-day event or a 6-day event? I don't remember.
It was a 6-day event.
6-day event. It was a shorter event. So throughout those 6 days, what kind of entertainment was in the side to make sure to kill the time and make sure you all stay awake playing A2Z over and over?
Oh man, Cinna, you want to
should ask. Well, I think Pasta could probably recite like blow by blow every movie and possibly every dialogue line that we watched. We had Pasta's immense list of, so before the event, she put together a big old spreadsheet of different movies that we could watch. I think we started out with the Nicolas Cage arc. Yeah. There's a National Treasure. We did a lot of Disney Channel originals, which are the ones that Pasta can quote line by line. There was The Bachelor season 6, was it?
Bachelorette season...
Bachelorette, forgive me.
16, I believe.
Oh, 16.
Season 16 of The Bachelorette. That was really the MVP of this event.
Turned into a John Paul Jones, Oshi.
John Paul Jones. Oh, man. Luke P.
Yeah, for a while there, we all changed our name to be changed our in-game names to be Bachelor themed. Just had that much of an impact on us.
Oh my goodness! I'm sure a lot of people would, if they didn't watch it, they'd be so confused. Like, what's going on? Like, what are these names?
Yeah, reality TV is like, I think, in my opinion, kind of like the secret weapon of tiering, because when like reality TV is set up in a way that is forcing you really to be glued to the screen, because they'll lead you on with events that'll happen in the future, several cliffhangers and recaps and so much stuff happening at one time that there's no time for you to feel sleepy, because you just have to find out what happens next. And like, kind of like alongside that, like earlier Cinna talked about having like hallucinations and stuff during her T3. I never actually experienced any hallucinations throughout any of my tiering experiences. I don't know. I guess it was just like me sleeping before then. Like I guess I haven't really done like extremely long sessions. I think I've capped out at like 30 hours or so.
Oh, how many? So what was your average number of hours you put in every day?
So going into it, earlier I talked about doing the math for a lot of the things. Going into it, I had planned for a pretty simple, like 21 hours a day and 3 hours of sleep throughout the whole event. And I mean, yeah, I like that. That's what I planned for, and it didn't need to. What's the word?
I think we ended up sleeping a fair amount, right?
I don't remember, honestly.
I think I remember getting like 8 hours 3 days and like 1 or 2 hours the other 3 days.
Yeah, I guess that raises the point of like, a lot of new tierers, they see the insane hours and they kind of feel like, oh, I have to be able to stay up for 24 hours, or I have to stay up for 48 hours and play from the start of the event and then keep going. And then, all the way to the hallucinations, and then sleep for 3 hours and wake up and do another 48. But that's really not the case.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times I feel like, you're like, people are able to sleep more than they think they are able to.
Mm-hmm.
But every event is different.
Sorry, I was going to add, like, once you're in it and you're dead tired from all that play, like 3 hours feels heavenly. You will feel so rested after 3 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
You can keep going for a full another day or two and you will be fine.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't even, for Niconiconnect, I don't even think I slept 3 hours. I think I, like, at a time, that was kind of my cap. So every time that I would go to sleep, it would be for a little bit less than 3 hours, maybe 2.5 hours. And then I would wake up and see where everybody else was at.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
It wasn't until like a day or two after the event where I actually got a full night's rest.
Absolutely crazy. I can't imagine that. But again, another great point raised. It's like, you could spend a lot of the time, right? Especially maybe who are unfamiliar with it. You could spend a lot of time just tiering, maybe in 24 hours and 48 hours. But, if you manage your time well, you could get the same amount of event points in maybe a slightly shorter amount of time, a little bit more efficient, sneak in a few naps here and there, and you feel a lot better, because ultimately it is a marathon, not a sprint, right? It's not the first person who gets as quickly as in 24 hours or 48 hours. It's just whoever can survive at the end. So, it's definitely something. So, it's great to hear from both of you that, I think overall it was a very memorable experience, right? Pasta,
Definitely.
you got first. Cinna, you got third. I know Feathers, I think, got second. So,
yes.
So again, it all worked out in the end. And I'm not sure if there's any like major sort of, I guess, happiness or accomplishments that you feel you want to share after, like, after the event was over or after that the results were in.
Yeah, it was at least for me, it was a really unique feeling, I think. Like it kind of really snuck up on me, because I've had my previous tiering experiences, and Hella Happy Summer, I parked and I was proud of that. And this time around, though, when I parked, I kind of like broke down and started crying at my desk. Like, I don't know, it just kind of hit me, because this was something that had been kind of in the making for like almost, I guess, 3 years, really, since the start of my journey. And I don't know, it was a lot that I can't really describe.
For sure. Yeah. Definitely. It's a big sense of accomplishment, for sure. Cinna, you were going to add anything?
Oh, no, I was just going to agree with Pasta. I think she described this. I felt this big upwelling of emotion. I was just, I don't think I probably muted myself before I ended up crying, but I really cried. I was like, I love Happy Wheels so much. I love you 5. Because like Sniffs and Rat did a ton of hours to help us out that they didn't really need to for their tea times.
Oh, yeah.
So I was just like, I love you all.
Shout outs to the MVP fillers, honestly, to those who like spend a lot more time than they really need to just to help the roster out. Those people are the real MVPs, and there's always going to be one or a few every event, but big shout outs to them.
Yeah, I like to think of tiering as kind of like a cheerleading squad pyramid. When they do the pyramid formations, and then the person kind of stands at the top. They wouldn't be able to do that without all the people supporting them and making sure that they don't fall. So I think it's a pretty nice analogy.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a really sweet way of putting it.
Definitely. So again, big shout outs to both of you, and big congrats on your achievements in the Niconiconnect event. So before we wrap up, I just want to actually ask a studio question. So every podcast, every episode, I ask the server members a studio question and for them to answer. And of course, if you're listening to this podcast, you can feel free to contribute to your answer on the question below in the video. But the question that I asked our members is, which Bang Dream event story has been your favorite and why? Now, there might be some bias from both of you based on your tiering experiences. I'm going to also share some of the responses I've received in the Discord server on the video, so you could definitely check it out. We have a lot of answers. A lot of them are actually pretty... like the big events, right? Like Neo Fantasy Online.
Oh yeah.
Luminous Once More, Advanced Story 2, we had stuff like that. But any answers to that? Maybe Cinna, we'll start with you. Do you have an answer to what is your favorite Bang Dream event story?
I like asking what my favorite book is. That's not a very fair question.
Your favorite movie or your favorite food? It's like, well,
I think just based on story, I would probably go for Prismatic Duo. And I think I am probably pretty biased because there's the recency effect and the other positive memories associated with it. But I just, Sayo and Hina, I love their relationship. They're, I don't know, some of my favorite like duo interactions. And I thought it was just like a lovely, both prequel and wrap up to their relation. So their big arc, their conflict, that showed how far they had grown, where they came from, and just the bit at the end where Sayo writes a song for the two of them, and she's like, "You saved me." I was like, "Oh man, I'm gonna start crying again." Fast to talk before I start sobbing.
Oh man, I guess like on my end, it's really hard for me to say honestly. Though, like, really, it's kind of a coin flip between like Band Story 2 and Band Story 3. But if I were to pick one other than those, I would probably say like the Hella Happy Treasure Island, the one event that I got T1K for. The reason I say that is because, that was really the event. I guess also the event of all the events I've done really, but like that one in particular was really the first event where I was like really starting to see the appeals of Hella Happy World, and all the different characters really started to affect me. And I can attribute that pure canon to the start of my journey of all these other pure canon events.
Well, I think I forgot to ask you this, Pasta, but is canon, is it just so happen that like canon is like by coincidence is just it's always the one that you're tiering for, or is canon like actually genuinely your favorite out of the 5?
A coincidence, because my favorite is Hagami.
Hagami deserves love for sure. Hagami deserves love. Yeah, for sure.
She deserves more.
I remember when I first got into tiering, a lot of the events that I wanted to tier so happened to have Hagami as a support character, and I'm like, wow, I didn't know Hagami was like this like dynamic of a character. I really like started to like learn a lot more about her. So
indeed, everyone sleeps.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, thank you for sharing, and of course, again, for our listeners, feel free to comment below if you have an idea or maybe what your favorite band story is. And of course, I've already shown some of our responses from our Discord server. But we're gonna wrap up this set very shortly. And again, thank you so much for contributing your time to share your amazing stories on tiering. It's been a great pleasure to learn a lot more about just how devoted you two are with your respective characters, especially towards Hell Happy and the Band Story 3 being such a big event. But before we go, I just want to hear if either of you two have any other whale thoughts. Is there going to be another tiering event in the future? Pasta, are you going to tier another event? Is maybe another T1? Who knows?
I mean, that is kind of like a who knows. I might be back for Band Story 4. But I am trying to funnel my income into other franchises, such as like Idly Pride and stuff like that. But there is one event that I do plan on doing in the future. Cinna, if you want to take this one.
Yeah. So I will be running for T10 in the Hinahagu event next year. Teach me Hina-chan Senpai. and Pasta is going to be a T10 on that event, so we may get to play together again in the future.
All right.
I'm also thinking about T10ing possibly Sakura Stroll, but that's pretty wishy-washy. I'm not totally sure I'll do there yet.
Okay. Yeah, but the big one is
T10 that one.
Yeah. The big one though is the Hina Hagu, and it totally kind of makes sense, right? One of you likes Hina, the other one likes Hagu, and they finally have an event together. Yeah, you have an event together. Have an event together. That's perfect. So. All the best, and I'm sure that if anyone wants to support you, any listeners who want to support both of you in your journey towards getting T10 in that event, they could surely contact you and ask to join the server and be able to support you, because I'm sure they would greatly appreciate. Both our guests would greatly appreciate your support.
Of course.
Yeah, we'd love to have you. Happy to help anybody learn if you want to dip your toes into the water of tiering.
For sure. But again, this will conclude our episode for today. Any last words from our guests that you want to say to our viewers today?
I guess thank you for having us. I wasn't really planning on anything like this, but Cinna kind of dragged me into it.
So. Yep, indeed.
Yeah, thank you for doing this, Phil. I really appreciate you having us. I appreciate you sort of documenting the history and writing an accessible resource to the tiering lore.
Yeah, for sure. It's all lore. There's gonna be like an iceberg or something. I don't know. But
yeah, at the bottom of the iceberg is hella happy summer break. Oh boy. But yeah, it's been a great honor to have both of you join in for the studio today. So again, for all listeners, thank you all so much for listening. This is your host, SB signing out. Thank you all so much for watching. The set has been complete. Get your cans ready. We will refill to the next set, and make sure you get those cans ready. And we'll see you all in the next episode. So thank you all so much for listening. And of course, check us out on all of your favorite podcast platforms. Until then, bye-bye, everyone. See ya.
Bye.